Barbecue, as we know it today, owes its early beginnings to the indigenous tribes of the Americas. When Christopher Columbus sailed into Guantanamo Bay in the 15th century, he observed the natives roasting animals over a fire suspended by a simple wooden rack. The Spanish began to call this rack and the food prepared upon it barbacoa. Between 1492 and 1880, the first slaves in the Americas consisted of between 2 and 5.5 million Native Americans. As slavery against American Indians slowly died out, over 12.5 million West Africans were enslaved to take their place. During this period, Native American slaves passed down the techniques to smoke, cure, and preserve meat to the African slaves. As a result, West African slaves became the prominent preparers of barbecue in the country for their white slave owners from that point on. During the antebellum period in the 19th century, the barbecue became more of a social gathering for wealthy white slave owners, which gave them more political and social influence throughout their communities. Like their fellow Indian slaves before them, African slaves began to merge their own spices and flavors into the food they prepared. These recipes were passed down through generations to their ancestors, and barbecue became synonymous with African American culture even to this day. There are 4 recognized regional styles of barbecue that exist. Kansas City style barbecue, such as Arthur Bryant's and George W. Gates, both in Kansas City, Missouri. Carolina style barbecue, represented by Rodney Scott's Whole Hog Barbecue in Charleston, South Carolina, and Backyard Barbecue Pit in Durham, North Carolina. Texas style barbecue, such as Patello's Barbecue in Beaumont, Texas, or Gatlin's Barbecue in Houston, Texas, and Memphis style barbecue, like the Barbecue Shop and A&R Barbecue, both in Memphis, Tennessee. Regardless of the regional style, all barbecue owes its beginnings to those indigenous people of the Americas that used smoking and curing meat as a way to preserve food during long winters and hot summers. This is another piece of American history that, like the smoked meat we've been talking about, needs to be preserved for future generations. Like, comment, share. What we're going to do next is we're going to create our rub. Your rub is a staple that goes on your ribs. You can have a wet rub or a dry rub, depending on where and what kind of ribs you're making. I prefer a dry rub, but then I make the ribs a slight bit more wet later on in the cooking process. So today what we're going to do is we're going to create our rub from scratch. You can make this from anything that you have in your kitchen and just make it taste good. So the first thing we're going to add, and it's always the basis of your rub, is we're going to add some regular kosher salt. You don't want to add too much kosher salt if you have high sodium or if you have high blood pressure. So I'm going to measure this out, because we're going to be doing 3 racks of ribs, and we want to make sure we get plenty of salt on it, but we don't want to put too much salt. So that should be enough for 3 racks of ribs. Okay, the next thing we're going to put on there is some garlic powder. Now, I don't measure when I am making my rub. I just put it all in there. The next thing we're gonna put in there is we're gonna put some paprika in there, just some regular paprika in there. That gives it color and a smoky taste to it. Now you're gonna smoke the meat anyway, but it's more for color than anything else. And then when you're putting your rub together, just anything that you've used, kind of scoot it out of the way so that you don't add it twice. I had to find out the hard way. Cracked black pepper. And so we're just gonna put some of that in there. Not too much. I think I grabbed too much here. I'm gonna put some ground cinnamon in there, is what I'm gonna be using. Now, you'll see why in a minute. Then for a little bit more kick, we're gonna put some chili powder in there. Okay. Some minced onion in there as well. Right there. Some ground white pepper in there. Not too much ground white pepper. Let's do this to, there we go. Doesn't take a lot of the ground white pepper. All right, now here's the important part of making this kind of a rub. This is a sugar substitute. This is the first time I've done this. My wife is on a low carb diet. So she can't eat like regular brown sugar. Otherwise you'd put regular brown sugar in there. So what we're gonna do is we're going to, usually what you do is you pack this in there, but this stuff is really sweet. So we're not gonna pack a lot in there. I've got like half a cup in there and I'm not even filling it all the way up, but I'm gonna pack it in there. Half of that, half a cup here. And then you just dump it in there. I'm gonna keep that handy just in case. And you make a rub. And then what you do after you mix everything together is you've got to taste it. So I'm gonna taste this. It's basically how you make a rub for your barbecue. It's really easy to do. We're gonna take our yellow mustard. We've got some French's yellow mustard. It doesn't matter what kind of mustard you use, but you wanna use some kind of mustard. Why are you gonna use mustard? Well, you're gonna use mustard because it helps to bind the rub to the meat. You also wanna have handy some paper towels, because what you're gonna do is you're going to be taking the membrane off with this. We're gonna take our ribs on our cutting board. We're gonna place the ribs here. We're gonna get rid of this skirt right here first. If you can see that. We're gonna get rid of this skirt right here because it's just not good eating. You just wanna cut it off though. You don't wanna completely get rid of it. So I'm gonna take my straight edge knife here and just very gently get rid of that skirt there and place that to the side. We're gonna use our Centauro knife here. I think that's how you say that. And we're going to take these rib tips here off. Now what you wanna do is naturally in here, just above the rib bones, where the tops are, you can kind of fill in there. There's a natural kind of break to the ribs where the tips go. And that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna cut along here. And actually, let me flip these over because it might be a little bit better on the other side. What I like to do is I like to try and come in here and I cut a straight line in here. And if you get it just right, you won't have any trouble getting through that bone. And you'll feel the give in it too. All right, so here we go. We've got rib tips. Those come off the ribs and you smoke these. You cut them up into pieces and you smoke that. Those are rib tips. The next thing we're going to do with these ribs here, we're just going to square them up a little bit more here. Now we're going to take this little edge bone right here off because it's just a piddly little thing here. You're not gonna get rid of it. You're gonna use it though. Right here. Right here. Just cut it right there. And when you're done, you have a rack of St. Louis style ribs right there. This is what St. Louis style ribs are. You get your own spares and cut them into St. Louis style ribs. So I'm gonna do that 2 more times to the other 2 rib racks, and then we'll get them rubbed up. Okay, so the next part that we're going to do is probably one of the most important parts of when you are smoking ribs. As you can see, I have 3 racks of spare ribs here that I've turned into St. Louis style ribs. But the most important part of this that helps you give the rib texture and flavor the right way and to not make it too tough is to take this membrane off of here. This membrane right here, what it does is it makes the back of your ribs kind of chewy. And so then what you're gonna do is you're going to take a spoon. I have this little baby spoon here that we don't need to use anymore. And I'm just gonna get under the spoon. The spoon works really well, I've seen, for me. So all you do is you just kind of get up underneath there a little bit. It'll come from underneath there. Get yourself a nice little piece of paper towel here. You get a nice good hold to this membrane right here. And it may not all come off at one time. Don't worry about that, just try again later. But if you pull at an angle and take your time, it will come off of there naturally. And usually I can get it in one shot, but sometimes it doesn't go in one shot. But I've got it kind of started here, you can tell. Got the membrane off there. So now that exposes this part of the rib underneath there. And so what you're gonna do now with your mustard and your rub is you're going to spread some of the mustard on the back of this rib here. Now, this is a messy job, so your hands are going to get nice and dirty. You don't want to use too much on this side because there's no bone on this side. The meat's on the other side. But you do want to get this side. So what you do is you take your rub and you gently just sprinkle some on there. Doesn't take a lot. I'm going to save the majority for the other side. Plus you've got 2 other racks of ribs to do here. And what you do is you flip this over, and you can tell this is why putting the mustard on there is important. Then what you do is you get used to scrunching the ribs together like this, because when you do that, when you get ready to cook them, they'll stay in that form and it brings all the meat together. Then I'm going to go ahead, and this side I'm going to put a bit more mustard on this side. You don't have to use mustard. Matter of fact, you can use olive oil. Sometimes I use olive oil. There's a place here called Old World Oil and Vinegar that I get my olive oil from. So you can use, they have infused olive oils, which are really good. So that just helps with the flavor profile. I'm gonna get real generous with your rub. Just like so. Again, you do want to save some of the rub for the other 2 racks of ribs. This is what we're going to put on the smoker tomorrow. The rub is best when you put the rub on the day prior and let it just get into the meat. When you do that, the longer you do that for, the better the meat will taste here, because you want this meat to be nice and flavorful all the way through. Oh yeah, I need to take this.
Whoa. Oh, wow. Look at that.
Get up high.
Oh, yes.
That's your mom's rag.
Yes. This bad boy, it ain't plain.
Yeah. I'm shooting this video for my job because we're doing stuff for Black History Month. And I'm going to be doing a video on Barbeque.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, they can't have them.
Look at all that room.
They heard that
Still
too.
got all kinds of room in there.
I know, right?
And you up on the top racks.
Yep. I wanted to keep her stuff separate.
Who's stuff?
Puddings. That's her rack.
Oh.
Because she's got that keto. She can't do all that sugar.
Right.
So that there's swerve on there. I put some swerve on the other racks too, but I also put some regular stuff on those other racks too. So.
Oh man. And this cooking fast. It ain't plain.
Nope.
Dang, I can't believe it.
I have
no longer than you done had this on.
I put this on. All the food went on there at 140.
What?
140.
Yeah, that baby shit, it ain't plain. It's just not 20 to 4. That's yeah, that's getting on down the road to be smoking. You can't grill much faster than that. Not ribs, not like that. Wow.
So what I'm doing here is I'm putting some swerve. This is the low keto. And some pats of butter. That's my father-in-law, y'all here. We're watching the game in here. And see, like, this is the bend test. So these ribs will be done very quickly here. So we're gonna throw a little bit of liquid in there. We're gonna put some more of that swerve on there. Just kind of bottle this up a little bit. I have no fruit juice except for orange, which is not what you want to use for this. So that's what I'm trying to avoid right there. So. Temp these up. So, and those will go back on the smoker. So, these are rib tips. These are the rib tips right here. And you can see there's that brisket bone on there. These are very tender already. We're gonna try and sample these. Oh yeah.
Oh. Yes. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, it's gonna be hot. It's good, isn't it? So this is what they would make a sandwich out of. None of the hog will go to waste. Right? They use every piece of the hog because that's what slaves would do. You know, slaves would use the whole hog that they were given by the master back in the day. And so, like, for example, a little bit of trivia, the term pit master, the pit master was the slave who ran the pit.
Right.
That's where that term comes from. So when you hear that word pit master was a slave. So, pretty good, huh?
Because that glass is cold. And that's a big window. Oh, that's a good window. That's the way it should look, man. Good job. My name is Eddie Daniel.
And you are?
And I am. What do you mean?
Well, what relation are you to the people that are filming this video?
Oh, and I am the father-in-law of this great, this great man that's filming me right now with his silly self.
Y'all hear that? I'm a great man.
Yes, this great man. Good son-in-law, y'all. Let me tell you. Let me tell you. Yes, I wouldn't be sitting here at this table right now, and I'm eating some of his famous cues as well out of the smoker.
That's why I'm great, because I just fed him.
And it's delicious.
All right.
Enjoy.
He's going to briefly talk to us about, because he's the only guy that I know that has done an entire whole hog cook down in Arkansas. So, Dad, tell us a little bit about how that whole hog cook kind of goes, like just kind of briefly from like start to finish.
Begins naturally with killing of the hog, and then we used a barrel, put it scalding hot water in it, then we scrape the hog, all the hair off, put the hog in and turn him a couple of times and pull him out, let him air, put him back in for a few more minutes, turning them from side to side, pulling him out, let him air a little bit, and then test the hair to see how easy the hair comes off. If it's coming off easily, then we take a knife and then we scrape him totally clean. You know, and after that we hang him up, we gut him naturally, got to take all the intestines out and everything. And then we proceed to lay him out and cut his shoulders, cut the joints of his shoulders and his the hindquarters. We split those so he'll lay flat out on the pit. And then we come to the pit part. The pit is dug in the ground, about 3 feet, 2.5 to 3 feet, and we burn it. You burn it. That way it cures the dirt. It makes the dirt hard and dry, which then allows the heat to bounce up. Instead of heat absorbing into the moist ground, is baked like an oven then. So when we put the coals in there, the heat will come back up instead of going down. We use a wire, 4 stakes, 2 on each end. We stretches the wire over the pit. And then we put the hog on, and then we continually to put the coals from an oak tree. We use oak wood around the pit, in the middle and around the edges. And this process takes about 12 hours. And this is an all-night affair, from about 5 in the afternoon to about 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning. This goes on all night, 6 hours normally on each side.
And who digs the pit?
The owners.
Okay.
The owners usually dig it.
Okay.
The owners and the sons, neighbors. It's usually a community affair. You know, this has been going on for centuries. Came all the way back from slavery time.
What does the dirt look like down there in Arkansas?
It's kind of a clay dirt type soil down there. We got different types. It just depends on where you're digging it at, where you want to be. Mainly you want to try to be close to a tree. That kind of helps the soil. It's deep rooted, and it's really good.
When it comes to the whole hog, would there be times that you would share some of the hog with like neighbors or anything like that?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. The neighbors definitely get involved because they help with the preparation of the killing of the hog, the cleaning of the hog, and up all night, because it's definitely more than one man can handle by himself. So normally it's some of your close friends and neighbors around, and they also get a portion of the meat when it's done. But it's just an experience like no other in the world, and you really have to be there, and that's just not in Arkansas. It's other southern states that I'm sure that does this as well.
Now, when it comes to the sauce, does your family have a secret sauce or anything like that they use?
Yeah, they got a secret sauce, and they don't let that secret out very often. Nobody, they keep that close to their hearts, and it's very hot, and it will make you cry, yes,
right.
It's open up your sinuses, your eyes, and your everything, so, but it's delicious, like nothing else in this world.